Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Psychedelic Vantage. I hope you're all having a wonderful day right now. I know I am. I am very, very excited for, I guess, the late June and July time frame. Some readouts coming that I'm really looking forward to seeing. Readouts that myself and probably many of you guys have been thinking about for, years. So it's a really exciting time for the psychedelic drug development space, and I thought I would do a little Q&A with our followers on X, and we got sent in some pretty good questions that I'm looking forward to answering. I may not have all the answers, and I'm going to only speak on what I know about. But nevertheless, these questions are great, and I think it's going to make for some interesting content for you guys. So, looking forward to getting into this. We have a range of questions on different topics. And the last and final question that I'm going to choose to answer is actually going to lead me to something else I wanted to cover, which is past results that we've seen in the space the past couple of months. In the past, I used to do a lot of videos covering right away. I think, yeah, covering when results came out from certain companies, and lately more of my focus has been on doing interviews, and I think a lot of them have been good to do, especially with GH Research. I had never seen them do a video interview with anyone, so I was really excited to have that one, and they had fantastic phase 2 data, and I wanted to touch a little bit on that, and it's relevant to the last question I'm going to answer. All right, with all that being said, let's get into it. All right, let's see, which is the first one I'm going to pick here. All right, I love this question. So Gotchaman_Zero at Gotchaman Z, love this person, sent in the question: do your colleagues still have the view that ketamine and psychedelics are still just for people to get high? Have any of them done a total 180 and started to take an interest in any of the companies in the space? Thank you for the question, Gotcha Man. I love this question, especially because I know it means that you saw my interview with Dr. Rick Barnett on psychedelics and addiction. And Dr. Rick Barnett is a psychologist, knows a whole lot about this topic. And we're talking about psychedelics as a treatment for addiction in that interview. So what Gotcha Man's asking about, so at my past internship, I had a supervisor I really liked. It was at an outpatient treatment center for people with substance use disorders. Uh, I loved my supervisor. He was fantastic. And I was curious. One that we were close. I was curious to ask him his thoughts on the potential of psychedelic medicine to treat addiction. And he stated that, he just thought it was another excuse for people to get high. And at the time, it really upset me hearing that response, and it told me that there needs to be a lot more education on psychedelic medicine. And then Dr. Rick Barnett actually made a good point in our interview and said, well, you know what? For some people, it actually can be that. It can be. It's possible. That is what happens sometimes. We can't ignore that, and especially maybe with ketamine. Um, but now back to this question: have any of them made a 180? So I'm not at the same internship, but I interviewed for a recent internship where I actually got the role. I'm excited. I'm going to be an alcohol and drug counselor intern, a master of social work intern, but getting my hours to be a licensed clinical alcohol and drug counselor down the road. Um, and on my resume, I actually put down. It's funny because I was speaking with my school, and they were like, maybe we don't want you to lie about, we want you to be your true self, but maybe think about how the psychedelic stuff is framed. So on my resume for this, I put down that I'm a volunteer on Fireside Project's psychedelic support line. Um, and I thought it was just relevant to show my work, um, supporting people through a psychedelic experience or helping them process it through skills such as active listening, reflective listening, grounding, breathing techniques, and more. And in my interview, they actually asked about it. And the two people that interviewed me at this treatment center seemed really excited that I was doing this. And this is at a treatment center for addiction. And I think they were excited to see the skills I was developing with supporting people. And then at the end, of course, they had to say, just so you know, like, we don't endorse any of this here. Um, which I was like, oh yeah, of course, like obviously. And what's it called? Sorry, losing my train of thought here. But they were two young people, and I could tell that they were excited. Like even though they didn't outright say it, I could say that I could tell they were excited about the potential of psychedelic medicine. I really got that vibe. So that's really interesting. And it makes me think that, yeah, I think a lot of the younger people, people in their early, mid, late 20s, early 30s as well, I think that's the group of people right now in the fields of psychiatry, psychology, clinical social work, mental health counseling. That's the age group that is, I think, really excited about all this. I'm sure the older people are as well, but I think almost everyone in our age group is knows what's going on, at least to some degree, what's going on with psychedelic medicine. Not they may not know a lot, but they know it's happening, and that's really exciting. So, yeah, has anyone done a 180? Again, I'm not at that same internship, but what I can say is I'm really excited about the feeling in the mental health world that mental health horrible wording. I'm getting excited with what I'm hearing from mental health clinicians. Let's just say that. And on LinkedIn, I even saw this psychiatrist who I really want to interview. She always updates her followers, and I'm a connection with her on new results that come out. And seeing that a psychiatrist who uses Spravato in her practice getting excited about this, it gets me excited. And it's really, really cool times right now. All right, let's go on to the next question. From my man JMJ Capital. This guy's brilliant, by the way. He's awesome. He said, "Does does Jake invest in any companies outside of psychedelic related companies?" The answer to that is when it comes to individual companies, no. Outside of index funds, no. I really just focus on psychedelic medicine, psychedelic drug development companies specifically. Um, it's what I feel like I know best. It's what I'm most fascinated by, most importantly. If I'm investing in another, I was actually looking at other stocks like that I was looking at Palantir when it was at like $7 a share, and some other companies that were pretty cool. But I found myself really not enjoying doing the research on those companies. I have a passion for it. I tend to focus on things I'm passionate about because when we're passionate about something, it's easier to learn about that specific topic. With that being said, I did actually invest a while ago. One of my first investments I actually made was in Axum Therapeutics and Relmada Therapeutics. Both of those I ended up selling after I think like 8 months for like I think like a 40% profit on each. And I think well, Relmada Therapeutics is now a penny stock. When I bought it, it was at 17. I sold it at around 30. I think it was like at a $700 million market cap when I sold. The reason I sold both of those actually was to buy more a tie before the PCN 101 readout. So I uh I probably lost a lot of those gains, but I'm glad I sold out of Romada because that's like a penny stock right now. But yeah, no, I really focus on companies in the psychedelic drug development space. I definitely pay very close attention to what's going on with other companies developing drugs for depression, and mood and anxiety disorders, addiction. But for companies I invest in, it's just the psychedelic drug development sector. And I updated on X a while back that I am currently invested in a Thai and GH research. I did sell Cybin to get into GH research before their data came out. Maybe I could speak a little bit more about this at the end of the video. But yeah, JMJ Capital, no individual companies outside of the psychedelic drug development space. All right. So the next question comes from Lulu from Saudi Arabia. Really cool that we have a follower from Saudi Arabia. That's awesome. Why isn't the development of psychedelic drugs being accelerated, especially when we're facing a global mental health crisis? Great question. And the answer is it is being accelerated. The development of psychedelic drugs is being accelerated by the FDA. Multiple companies have FDA breakthrough therapy designation. They get FDA guidance. They get rolling review, priority review, which could shave off 10 to 6 months of the timeline of getting the drug to market. With that being said, it is in the grand scheme of things, it does feel slow, right? It does. And I agree with you that it's slow, especially when we're facing a global mental health crisis. And that's why I think a lot of states are taking it into their own hands right now to get these like in Oregon, they have legal adult use model in a certified clinic with certified supervisors. Colorado passed something. New Mexico, I think a medical model only, which was very interesting to see. I don't follow this too closely. I would suggest you look at Psychedelic Alpha for updates on these um, new systems that are coming into place into our country at the state level. So I understand, and I actually totally support the legalization movement in general. And at the same time, I think we still don't know all the benefits and risks of these drugs. And um, if we're going to give these drugs to vulnerable patient populations, I honestly do think we need more research. I got to be honest. I'm not 100% convinced that the benefits outweigh the risks yet for certain psychedelics, as excited as I am about them. I'm someone who really thinks that this should be science driven. This doesn't mean I'm against legalization, but it does mean that I totally understand when people are a little bit worried about these programs that are going around outside the country. At the same time, though, you're right. We're in a global mental health crisis. We do know that these drugs help people. We know that. We know they help people right now. So I think they should be legalized. I do think we need to be really careful though, and so that we don't, undo all the amazing progress that people have made. So in short, the development of psychedelic drugs is being accelerated at the FDA level, and but it is a little bit slow, and that's why some states are taking it into their own hands. I totally support that, and I also think we need to be careful with all that. Aquilone asks, any thoughts on drug? He's talking about Brightmind's biosciences. They follow you and have a psych-based pipeline, even if the real valuation rests with BMB 101 and epilepsy. That's absolutely right. I'm a biotech guy and like BMB 101, but I'd like to hear about the rest of the pipeline from someone more in the know about shroom stocks. Thanks. Thank you for the question, Aquilone. You're right. Most of their value is 100% for BMB 101 and epilepsy. BMB 101 is a 5-HT2C agonist being developed for, I believe, rare forms of epilepsy. It's the reason Brightmind stock really popped a little while back, and I mean by a lot. I think Lundbeck acquired this company for $2.6 billion, which was also working with a 5-HT2C agonist that had proof of concept data in some form of epilepsy. And that's what really brought a lot of attention to Brightmind's biosciences, um, considering that they probably have a de-risked program here. And I think their market cap's around like $270 million now. They raised 30 million. But yes, they do have a psychedelic pipeline behind that. I don't think they're putting a lot of, actually, no, I shouldn't say that because I'm not sure, but I do know that their psychedelic programs and non-hallucinogenic neuroplastogen programs have been in preclinical development for a long time, and that hasn't changed. So that makes me think that more the focus is on BMB 101. With that being said, they are working on, yes, non-hallucinogenic neuroplastogens. They're working on a short-acting new chemical entity 5-HT2A agonist that I believe is even more potent, much more potent than psilocin. So psilocybin is a prodrug. It breaks down in the body, turns into psilocin. They're working with a short-acting, 5-HT2 agonist. They call it a fast on, fast off compound. Um, those are kind of actually the only details I know about them. I know they're working on the non-hallucinogenic neuroplastogens, which so many companies are working on now, and short-acting psychedelics. And I don't really know much about their preclinical data. As people probably know, preclinical data in psychiatry kind of means nothing. And I recently learned that not once has a drug ever been commercialized for depression where the antidepressant effects were originally discovered in preclinical models. That hasn't happened once. Actually, the CEO of Avexia Therapeutics always writes that on LinkedIn, and we've spoken about it. It's really interesting. Um, so yeah, let's see. Let's see what other questions I have here. One of them I don't really have a great answer to, so I'm not going to answer it. Um, let's see. All right, now the last one that I'll get to. I love this. B Diggs asks, he wants to know about the relevancy of the 1 milligram control dose in Compass Pathways Phase 2 to the results of Comp 005. Really fantastic question. So Compass Pathways Phase 2B was looking at 1 milligram, 10 milligram, and 25 milligrams of Comp 360 psilocybin. And this first data set that we're getting from Compass Pathways, Comp 005, we're actually not getting too much data, unfortunately. It's really just the MADRS difference between arms, the p-values, and confidence intervals, along with a basic high-level safety assessment from the Independent Data and Safety Monitoring Board, the DSMB. So I think a lot of people maybe will feel, I mean, definitely will feel relieved this if there's not too much concern around suicidal ideation or behavior. But overall, we're just getting the MADRS delta, and I'll explain why that's a little bit annoying to me. I understand why they're doing it, but it is a bit annoying to not have that much data. So I think what B Diggs is kind of asking is, so Compass's phase 2B, we got to see the difference between the 25 milligram group and the 1 milligram group, but now we're seeing 25 milligrams versus zero. So does that even, I mean, is anyone really feeling anything on 1 milligram? Is that really different than zero? It's such a great question. So in that trial, the phase 2B, there was a placebo response with the 1 milligram group. And it was pretty strong, actually. I think it was around -7 points on day one after dosing, if I'm not mistaken. And it definitely went back to, I think, yeah, it went back. It didn't stay there, that's for sure. But there was a placebo response. So let's see, 25 milligrams versus zero. I do think there's going to be a difference, and I'll tell you why. So in the study where they looked at 1 milligram, 10 milligrams, and 25 milligrams, everyone in that study was said, you're getting the active drug, believe it or not. I actually looked on a website of this group that helps out with these clinical trials. They have a clinic, and I was looking at how they were recruiting for one trial. I even looked at the Beckley SciTech Phase 2B, how they were recruiting for it. It's also a 3-arm study. They said everyone in this study will get an active dose. And they're also looking at a very low subperceptual dose, but it is, I guess, an active dose. I think when there's 3 arms in a study and you're told you're going to get the active dose, even though some of them might be stronger or weaker than the other, they're also told, my understanding is that, we don't know which one is going to be most therapeutic. The 25, the 10, the 1, we don't know. So there's a lot of guessing going into this. Like if you're in the 0 milligram group in Comp 005, I think there's not going to be much guesswork after an hour being in the experience. After an hour of having the eye shades on and the music going, I don't think you're going to be guessing anymore. I think with the 1 milligram, 10 milligram, 25 milligram, in that type of study, you are going to be thinking, ooh, I wonder like which dose I got. Like I think I'm feeling something here. And I think that does make a difference, 1 milligram versus zero, believe it or not, especially 3 arms versus 2. And I think something else to note is that the primary endpoint in Comp 005 will be at the 6-week mark. It was at the 3-week mark for the phase 2B. And it's a larger sample size as well, especially in the active dose group. So usually as trials get larger, the effect sizes um, aren't as powerful. I guess, you know, people used to think, oh, it's a good thing, psychedelics versus a placebo. Like that's such an advantage for us, right? Like, of course, psychedelics are going to outperform a placebo, but it's actually not an advantage, and it makes people scrutinize the data very much. So I actually want to see a placebo response. I actually listened to a call, and I think Guy Goodwin noted that yes, they're getting zero, but they're I think he said they're high touch patients maybe, or like they're gonna get like support. So maybe that results in a response, in a MADRS response at the 6 week mark. I'm not sure. But this is where it's annoying with just getting a MADRS delta at the 6 week mark. Let's say the placebo group is gets worse. Let's say they're +3 on the MADRS, and the psilocybin group is sees a minus only a -3 point reduction, not delta, just a -3 reduction. So we would see in this data set the delta of 6 points. We'll be like, oh my God, that's great. Like Spravato was at -4.4 points at I think at like day 28 or something. So people in their head might be like, oh, that's great, but it's like, well, that wouldn't really mean much if there was like a nocebo response in the study. It just wouldn't mean anything. So, this Compass data, it's a big deal, but I'm more excited for when they release the full data package. It will be nice to see if there's not too much safety concern around suicidal ideation, especially suicidal behavior. That's where you really have to really look at the data and wonder if the benefits outweigh the risks for this patient population. With GH research, we saw that in their study, GH001 IDR versus placebo individualized dosing regimen, there was like no response. And GH research also states that there's no mandated psychotherapy, so maybe there is less emotional support for those patients as well, and that played into the nocebo response. I don't know. It was also at a day 8 endpoint. Um, and it was an individualized dosing regimen. So once they got to the second dose and the third dose and they felt nothing, they really knew that they got no drug. They really knew that they got no drug. Like there's 0% chance that anyone thought, at least I think by the third dose there's zero chance that anyone thought they got the drug, and it showed in the double blind period everyone took 3 doses in that trial. Everyone in the placebo group. So wow, that was a long answer. I apologize. My thoughts were a bit all over the place on this one with, the relevancy of the 1 milligram control dosing Compass Pathways phase 2 to the results of Comp 005. I hope I answered your question a bit there. And let's see. Hmm. Guess, yeah, maybe quickly I'll go over the GH data now that I'm thinking about it. Um, that GH research data was really fantastic. People probably saw it. Again, it was a day 8 endpoint though, which is GH research will say that this is standard for an ultra rapid antidepressant, which I get, but it doesn't follow what other psychedelic drug development companies are doing. What I think I was most excited about with the GH data was that they looked at retreatment out to 6 months in a phase 2. I think that was really smart of them to do. And I think that's going to help them out with phase 3. Rather than looking at one dose, see how long it lasts, and then you move into phase 3, I think they really have a good understanding of what's a good retreatment criteria now. And there were some people, people point to there were some patients who dropped out of the trial, but it was also a 6 month study. It was comparable dropout rate to one of the Spravato trials, if I'm not mistaken. And for the people who completed the open label extension so far, I believe they're still looking at the data from 9 other people. I mean, 77.8% of people with treatment resistant depression in remission is ridiculous. It's incredible. It's incredible. I think, yeah, 63% of people took 1 to 4 doses of the drug, with the average being around 4. So some people took 5. 5 was the most I think they were letting people take. So, the data was really impressive. A couple of caveats though are, let's say they had a similar trial design to Compass Pathways phase 3 trial with which was at a 3-week endpoint, and they saw 29.1% remission in that study. If GH Research, if they did a 3-week endpoint, would it be much different than Compass? I'm not sure. With GH Research, the remission rate at day 8 was, I think, 57.5%, 60% response rate. If you let that go out, and you could see from day 2 to day 8, those numbers were going down. It wasn't staying flat. So would it be much different than the Compass Pathways data if they looked at a 3-week endpoint? I don't know. I don't know for sure. But I got to give GH Research so much credit for looking at redosing here and seeing what it takes to bring people back into remission or keep them in remission. That also actually brings up another caveat. We saw that with each GH001 dose, there was a steep decline on the MADRS. While that's encouraging, I think it also tells me that the reason why it worked is because people became depressed again. Um, and this is where I need a little bit more knowledge. Let's say with Spravato, after the maintenance phase, I believe people are getting dosed once every week or once every 2 weeks. It all depends on what the doctor thinks is most appropriate. But I think the goal with Spravato is to keep people in remission. I don't think it's, oh, if you're feeling bad, then you come back and get more doses. I could be wrong here. So no one quote me on this. With psychedelics, I think a lot of companies, if someone's in remission, do you want to give them another psychedelic experience and maybe it's not as beneficial as the one they had prior and they don't go back into remission? At least that's how I think about it. That's what I'm thinking. So in the GH study, it's an average of 4 treatments per 6 months, but are people falling in and out of remission? Is that even, I don't even know if maybe that's not even a big deal. And it's amazing if you're depression free for a full month with treatment resistant depression, and then when you go in for another visit, they see the depression's coming back a bit, they give you another dose. They had a very interesting retreatment criteria. It was very complex. It's not that complex, but for me to say to all of you right now without looking at it, I think it was, if it was greater than 18 at the next visit on the MADRS, you got redosed. If it was between 10 and 18 and you responded the previous visit, then you got dosed again if your MADRS score is between 10 and 18. Forgot all the details here, but overall, that GH data was really great. And I think they were super smart for looking at retreatment in this trial. And it gave investors a lot of data to look at. So all right, everyone. This has been a little bit of a long recording, but I hope everyone enjoyed this. I hope you guys all have a great day, and I hope we've had 4 out of the 5 big 5 publicly traded psychedelic drug development companies on the channel. I would love to reach out to Compass after their data comes out, and hopefully I can make that happen for all you folks. And I'm excited for this data that's coming out. I think I'll be outside of the country by the time it comes out, but I'll be looking at it. Anyways, I hope everyone has a great day, and yeah, talk soon.